Hey, good afternoon, beautiful. Good afternoon, beautiful people. Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is your host, Matthew from the Day and Night Podcast. And we got episode 61 coming to you. And hopefully everybody is still enjoying um, the episodes that we bring forth to you. If anybody's out there wondering where Mark is at, Mark is still live with us. Um, he's still going to be on the show. He hasn't been kicked off the island. So he's just taking care of some personal business. He will be back next week. So we have a good one for y'all today, and I think it kind of ties into the times that we're living in right now. I'm pretty sure everybody is feeling as though things are just ridiculously crazy out there as far as with the prices and stuff, and whether it's gas prices, groceries, um, housing. It just seemed like things are just astronomical and it's a challenge to live. So I don't know if anybody else thought about it. I definitely have thought about it as far as like moving somewhere else. So again, this is what this episode is about. So the guest that we have coming on, his name is Richard Blank, and Richard Blank has moved to Costa Rica, and I believe he used to live in Philly at some point. So it's going to be interesting to talk to him about that. And just going to run down the basic history as far as Richard Blank, who he is. So Richard Blank, he moved abroad to Costa Rica. Um, that's one of my favorite vacation spots. I went there 2 years, 2 years ago, and I loved it. And I definitely want to get back. So that's where he's more or less talking about maybe moving abroad because that's where he's located. So Richard had a vision. At age of 27, he relocated to Costa Rica. He trained employees to one of the larger call centers in San Jose. And by doing so, he shared his knowledge by training over 10,000 bilingual telemarketers. He had the largest collection of restored American pinball machines and antique Rockola jukebox in Central America, making gamification a strong part of Costa Rica culture. So he's been the chief executive officer for Costa Rica Call Center since 2008. Mr. Blank holds a bachelor's degree in, in communication Spanish from the University of Arizona and a certificate of language proficiency from the University of Sevilla in Spain. He's a keynote speaker for Philadelphia Abington High School 68th Annual National Honor Society induction ceremony. He was inducted in the 2023 Hall of Fame for Business. He gave back to Abington Senior High School, which was very important for him, and it's something that he holds dear to his heart. And he endows a scholarship each year for his students that plan on majoring in world language at the university level. So that's who Mr. Blank is, and he will be coming on here pretty shortly within the next 10 minutes. So if everybody could just bear with me. Um, so like I said, so that's what he's going to talk about. He's going to talk about living abroad and the things you can do to live abroad and to be successful. So hopefully this helps out somebody that's thinking about moving and living abroad. So I'm pretty sure he's going to have some good points to talk about, some good things to focus on. So I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure it's going to be some great content. All right, so y'all just bear with me. Moving and living abroad. So I'm pretty sure he's going to have some good points to talk about. Having a little bit of technical difficulties over here, so nobody judge. Okay. All right. So beautiful people. Hopefully everybody's staying warm. We got crazy weather all over the place. I know in Buffalo they got the blizzard. I know down in El Paso they got the wind storms up to I think it's 400 miles per hour winds. In Kansas City they having like negative 32 degrees. I know here in Georgia we had a lot of rain the past couple of days. So just all across the country, it's a lot of craziness going on with the weather and stuff. I mean, it is wintertime, so it is expected. But like I was saying, like Costa Rica is a beautiful place, and here he is. So, with no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is Richard Blank. Richard, are you there? There you go. Can you hear me, Richard?
All right.
All right.
Ah, look at your shirt. Yeah,
I can
poor
say
Vita.
Perda Vida, Perda Vida.
Man, were you doing chest today? You're
Yeah.
looking jacked.
Oh man, it's just a small shirt. I had to look good for the camera and stuff. So I had to
I
put on
know
my
that
extra
style.
speed. So
What's up, my
I just
man? This is
I
going to be
just want
great.
to first say thank you for taking out time to be part of the Day and Night podcast.
Yeah,
I just went over like your bio, so I know you're a busy man. You have accomplished a lot of things, so it's much appreciated that you are joining us today.
thank you.
So um, I'm just looking forward to it. So if you could, this is your floor. Just tell us who you are, how you came about, and not to convince the viewers, but why it's a good idea of thinking about moving abroad.
Of course. Well, I can't thank you enough for having me as a guest. Naturally, I'm one of so many of your audience. I'm one of the few that had the guts to reach out to you and say, yo, I want to be on your podcast and
Yes,
pay
sir.
it forward. But I'm originally from Northeast Philadelphia,
I'm
graduated with
from Philly too, West Oak Lane,
yeah. Which was your high school?
Northeast High.
Northeast, Abington. I think
Yep.
we beat you in football.
Yeah, y'all used to beat up on us pretty much, but that's okay. I think we got y'all in basketball.
You know, back in the day, we had Eddie George on our team during my years.
Yes, I remember that.
You remember that name and Sean Wooden?
Yeah, and we had Charles Way. That was the biggest football name we had at Northeast was Charles Way.
And a shout out to my friend Ray Crawley as well, who would have been a legend. And so
Okay.
he was an excellent player. But yeah, we know how it is in being from Philly. And so
Yes, sir.
decided to be a Spanish major. I didn't fall into certain pressures or traps of Ivy League medicine and law. Not saying it's bad. I just didn't have the grades. And so, and also you're from Philly. It got cold, especially
Yes.
when they weren't calling a snow day for us on KYW. So
Yeah, I should look forward to them. I don't know about you, but every day I would get up and like, Mom, we going to school today? Nope. Yeah.
wasn't it the best? It's always when you didn't study.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yep.
but it took me to the University of Arizona. I was a Spanish
Nice.
major. I was building on momentum. I was getting reinforcement of first downs, not touchdowns yet. I couldn't compare notes, but I was on a vision quest that we all know about from time to time. And the greatest thing was to be true to myself because I said, listen, if I'm going to make a four, and in my case, a 5-year investment in college, I just can't study something and then sell real estate. I mean, a lot of my friends have
Exactly.
film degrees and never did something with it. I
Right.
need to go all the way on something. And so my argument to my parents was that my grandparents came from Europe at the turn of the 20th. They learned a second language and started. So allow me to build on this sort of momentum of our family lineage of taking chances and following through and exploring new things. And so how could you turn down such passion? And
Exactly.
little did I know, my friend, that I was the only one that could speak Spanish out of a group of people. It opened doors for me, got me jobs post grad because I was bilingual in the mid 90s. And at 27 years old, I had a 1 in a million opportunity to move to the land of Pura Vida. And let me put this, it wasn't my first rodeo in Spanish. I was more than prepared. So you let me
Awesome.
out and look what happened.
Yeah. Uh-oh. You still there, Richard?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I can.
Okay, I lost the sound for a minute. I couldn't hear you.
That's all right. And as I say, certain things go through stages. I had certain checkpoints. So I knew I was doing the right thing and I was getting reinforcement, getting better at it. You know what the real secret is? And I think you get it. It's the dedicated practice. If you really want to win something, you just don't put in the average time like in school or like in work. It's the extra of
Yeah,
learning, doing, preparing, and that's how you win and go the distance. And I realized that I might not be the smartest, definitely not the best looking, but there's a very, very good chance by default I could be the last man standing.
understanding. Yeah.
And that's the Philly way. We go the
Yes,
distance.
sir.
We have all of our champions in all different mediums and verticals. Just doesn't have to be in boxing and in athletics. We have our Philly pride and we back it up and we step up. And if we're not doing it right, our friends are going to call the balls and the strikes and tease you or grill you about it. The one thing we don't do is stop. I've never really seen that crash and burn. I've seen us maybe lose our focus and direction and start just swinging in that way, but the heart never goes away. And I think that's the nice thing that can help you have peace of mind at night when you put your head on a pillow. And so my industry is a little tricky. It's a call center industry. Hey, Matthew, you ever make or receive phone calls before? You ever do that?
I've just started about a month ago, and I have a newfound respect for all customer service and call center. I never expected it to be the way it is. So trust me, I overstand 100%.
So wait a second. You said that you started a month ago. You're working in customer support inbound calls. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh, do you have a
Yeah.
supervisor with coffee breath that's looking at your QA and trying to coach you?
Well, no, I'm fortunate enough to be at home, so I work from home.
So it's your own coffee.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, my friend, you are blessed with soft skills. And there's no reason why this old bedside manner that we usually chose our doctors, our attorneys, and our most trusted confidants. It's not the people that have to tell you the good news or the bad news, give you the injection or wake you up, you know. It's the way they do it.
Exactly.
It's not, and I like that. I like people that can be straight with me with bad news and also be there with me to celebrate the good news. And so with your customer support, think of every single phone call as a retention call. You're not going to lose them. How about this, my friend? You might do such a good job, they might refer you to five of their friends that call you specifically. You might get an upsell. And how about this? And you work at a call center, you'll get a positive escalation, which means that they'll ask to speak to your supervisor to let you know how amazing Matthew was. Well, what did he do? He was just courteous and he listened and he took notes and he repeated what I said. So I didn't have to repeat it. When I was stressed, he let me know that to thank me for sharing it and that he understood my position and to allow him to work on it and to make it right. And so his average talk time is 8 minutes. He was on the call for 12 minutes. Yes. But look at the sort of support that this man did to retain this client and get her friends. And now she's talking to the supervisor and she'll never go away. She'll be there forever. And then when our friend Matthew gets off the phone and has, his break time with his other agents, they might be complaining or stressed, but you're coming in there, go, yo, I put an extra 3 rounds in with Betty, but I still got her. I answered all the questions. And I reviewed her email 6 times in the military alphabet. And then her dog started barking in the background. So I stopped, dropped, and rolled. And I said, Betty, love dogs too. What's your doggy's name? How old is your puppy and what breed is it? Yeah, but that's not on the script. Yeah, but Matthew's not on the script. He's a guy that can zig and zag. He's the kind of guy that can anchor. And don't kid yourself, when Betty calls back, you know who she's asking for? Her favorite person in the world that gives her first class service. And she's willing to wait on hold for that and in the queue. And so I'm proud of you, my friend, because one day it'll be automated or AI or non-voice omni-channel with the chats and emails. But you and I are the last of verbal cowboys. We still believe in the art of speech and willing to die with our boots on to give that sort of personal approach and service to people. So hats off to me. You're a freshman. You're green. You haven't even done anything yet. So my
Yeah.
hats off to you. You got a long way to go, but I
Yeah.
think you're going to do great.
I do appreciate it. You've made it sound so easy. You just motivated me. You just gave me a newfound motivation to when I go into work Tuesday. Yeah, I'm going to be real hyped.
Matthew, may I make a couple more suggestions, please, that can work in any sort of vertical and medium, if I may? I love,
Yes,
as I
please.
mentioned, soft skills and diplomacy and strategy. So I can't express enough to use the thesaurus. It can immediately eliminate a writer's block and give you power bombs. Best example, you should never. Man, you work in my call center, I will take off points on your QA score, young man, if you use the word help on the phone. You never, don't say may I or can I could care less about that. It should be may, but do not use help. Guide, assist, and lend a hand. You're changing tones, avoiding rabbit holes, and you're not going backwards. You're moving forward 4 paces in regards to pace. And instead of excuse me, no, Matthew, fall on the sword. Matthew, for my clarification, was it ABC or 1, 2, 3? So these are small swords you fall on to keep readjusting the tone because they're comparing you to the 10 other bad calls that they had. Now, I always believe in repeating what they said. So Matthew, you did say 1, 2, 3. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you. These are checkpoints that you can have with them. Not hedging. Don't say everything's great and wonderful. It might not be. Those are the times, unless you're mirror imaging an anniversary, a win, or a lottery ticket, you should just be repeating addresses, numbers, dates in a very neutral tone, not to evoke emotion. And I couldn't stress military alphabet. That email bounces back. People have exotic names now. And if you do, as I mentioned, have a chance to give a positive escalation to someone that assisted you, a parent, a child, someone at an office, if you're making outbound calls, or it doesn't matter if anyone passes you around or assists. You do it verbally and you do it in writing. Because of anything and nothing, it takes you from 3 point to now foul line percentages. And if you get really good, then you're just dunking. And finally, my good friend, and you're taking inbound support, but let's say you're making outbound. I always believe in romantic deaths. The first 30 seconds should be an ace. In my cases of outbound prospecting, we like to do due diligence prior to the call. So we'll either do a company name spike or mention something amazing about a company first, which will reduce the gatekeeper's defense from like a 10 to a 3. And then not only do we properly introduce ourselves, but if we get the pass to pitch, we will use that verbally when we get transferred to reduce D and move to offense. Now on your end, you should always be once again using the name and saying it in such a nice way and properly introducing yourself and trying to breathe and slow down. And regardless of the outcome of your inbound shrapnel and 20 guys that dropped the ball before you, and who knows if you can even resolve the issue and where this is going to go. But your first impression will always represent yourself in the best light with your chest out, your chin up, and your shoulders back. You will smile and you will take it. Why? Because I have no idea who this person is, but I will allow them to see the fact that I believe in myself, believe in my company, and I'm not going to do it the whole call because that might upset you. But at least I will, in the beginning, try to anchor on a certain tone that can wiggle a little bit, but at least be courteous and listening, expecting somebody, if especially on a retention call, to understand their position and thank you for sharing that for me. Man, that should be part of the apple you're biting when you're juggling. There should be the top 5 rebuttals you should be able to do in 6 languages. You should be prepared for this. There are tell signs with these people. And so you, my friend, don't be complacent on these calls. There are ways to do not only do your job, but there are other categories since you're in a controlled environment and doing this at hundreds of times a day that you see patterns. When to pause, when to raise your voice, when to just really just listen and take exceptionally copious notes. And I don't want you to lose the love for what you're about to do because it really has a bad rap. Making the calls, receiving the calls, movies, Hollywood, you name it. But you and I both know, my good friend, we are the people that can save an account, make somebody's day, be the first out of many that took the time, right? And I only know what my grandparents and parents taught me. And as much as technology, I try to keep up with it, and there are certain things to use with it. You and I will always have the advantage over AI because we have the old school Philly bedside manner, soft skills, true love, heart, you know, the way we did it, old school style. And that works, my friend, when you start a business because you can be consistent and you're not faking it. And people will see you during chaos. You keep the same character and they'll respect you more for that because then you're steadfast. You can weather storms. And I'm obvious to certain things that are around me, but I'm not going to invest time and energy in things that suck energy. I'd rather focus on things to resolve or to find individuals that you know can step up to the plate for the first time or the 100th time and just be part of my line of strength. And that's the stuff you can't do with money or threats or fear or leverage. These are the people that decide to stand and rise and walk with you. And there are many ways. And here's the skinny. It's not the time when you meet in Boys Town on that field to duke it out. There's 100 wins that you had before that to get the people to show up to go with you. Kind of like the movie The Warriors. Oh, my favorite movie of all time. Yeah, The Warriors. Those were specifically chosen warriors to go see Cyrus and go to that event. And so you can't think and see today. You have to realize the army, the mindset, the preparation and dedication that got you to that point. And the older you get, the more you see it because you see the patterns and you have the luxury of track records. But if you happen to be young, then give the benefit of the doubt and have faith in. And that's a nice thing to have. You may be disappointed from time to time, but I'd rather win more on having faith in people than not betting at all. And that's just the way that ball bounces, G. And I've learned that the hard way from time to time.
I like that. I like it.
You know, I'm a collector of classic pinball machines. Do you remember the old retro arcades with Pac-Man and pinball?
Yes, yes, indeed.
$5 would have to last you a whole weekend. So,
Good
and
old days.
I loved it. And I'm a collector. Behind me is a beautiful 1961 Ricola Regis. I own
I
five
see it.
other jukeboxes, and I collect pinball machines. My oldest one's a 1970 Bally's Camelot, and the newest is a 94 Last Action Hero, Data East. I have everything in between. And I love the restoration and the play fields, especially the ones from the 70s and earlier, because it's painted wood. And the marquees are beautiful. And you're going to call me crazy. I just like the movie Christine with Stephen King. I believe that these machines have electromagnetic energy. Do
Oh,
you know how
yeah.
many people fell in love in front of this jukebox in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s or wherever? But
I'm
especially when
sure
she
countless.
first came.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a memory. And so when they're in my possession, my favorite thing is to clean them and to look up different products that can keep them restored and watch the wood. And, you know, when you have discretionary income, you could be like Tom Hanks in the movie Big and just buy trampolines and bounce around and have fun. I
Yeah.
hate to say it, I kind of felt like that. There are expectations in regards to showing people you've made it by certain jewelry you wear or cars you drive. And
Indeed.
I'm okay with that if that's your gig. But The thing that popped into my mind the first time is if you have $1,000, what would you buy? I'm like pinball machine. That hasn't changed in my mind since I was a young kid. And so when that first big check came in, I started looking around. And it's interesting how people have these things in bodegas and they're just not, they have boxes on them. They're not even being used. So I get my boys, Billy and Joey, and we grab the truck. We'll drive 4 to 5 hours out into the rainforest, some small town somewhere to meet some guy at his house that used to have a store that went out of business, but he kept 4 machines. And I turn them on, and they seem to somewhat work. And then the next thing you know, I'm driving back as excited as can be, like on Christmas Day. And I have the room for it. And I wanted to create a recess environment where agents can let off steam, recharge batteries, meet people from other departments they might have not met. How about this? Not have a cigarette during lunch, get off that phone. Why don't you play some air hockey, pinball,
Right.
play some of the fighting games so we can, and you know what it is? It's like running in place, or an athlete that doesn't want to cool down during athletics. They stand instead of sitting on a bench. They don't want to stop moving. And so let's say you're making calls like yourself, my friend, but after 2 hours and now you have your break, you and I go play some pinball for 15 minutes and talk about Betty and how you're doing and what else is cooking. What you're doing is continuing to work your brain with your hand-eye coordination and timing, plus the stimulation visually that you're not getting when you're making these phone calls. You know, you're not looking at these people, you lose 3 of your senses. And so
Sure.
I believe that the more that you work your brain in different areas, especially through communication and visually and images and sensations, it's only going to make you more animated. When you're on the phone, it might make you more lucid or more in the moment. So you're not just answering their questions. No, always make sure to do a pause in between just in case they got the non-visual raising the hand. Matthew, I got a question. I used to speak twice as fast as I thought I should. So I said, just for kicks and giggles, why don't I just do a little pause in between? Just enough where they don't see it. Kind of like if you're jumping stones in a creek, far enough, but not close enough, but fun enough. And so I would leave a little bit out there, and almost like a boxer, you kind of want to see reactions and how people are swinging. And so I wanted to see, have I been able to readjust their tone? Are they asking me questions faster or slower? If it's slower, then I've been able to slow down this trot. Maybe I've learned to pace it. Maybe by repeating, they're not asking the things they did earlier. And it's a game? No, it's a dance. It's a dance. I want to make sure I'm not interrupting or cross talking. I want to make sure that I can match your rate and your pitch just to see if you spike or dip in your phonetic speech. And that's the time I would ask a tie down or clarification question. It's not an off balance on me, it's an off balance on you. I need to rebalance and educate you on the question that you have to clarify it. And if you think, my friend, that you're going to do a 10-minute call without them even answering, man, you're just walking through a desert with no oasis. I like 30-second checkpoints. A 10-minute call to me, Matthew, is 20, 30-second phone calls. I buy 30 seconds of time. Don't tell me boxers don't change their style, lose their steam, get stronger or weaker in different rounds. I think angry Betty in the first 2 minutes could be sweet at the end, sweet in the beginning, angry at the end. And who knows what goes on in that crazy middle. But you and I are going to keep some distance, and we're going to gauge, and we're going to keep judging what's working, what's not working. And I'm going to tie it down by making sure it makes sense to Matthew. It sounds good, right?
That sounds right.
Thanking them for it. And you know, the beauty of it is they're going to say that you're one of the nicest people they ever spoke to on the phone. And you should be hearing that about 80% of the calls, regardless of the outcome. And then you know that you're doing things correctly. And that's how you get promoted, because you're not mucking up and angling and turning in bad numbers. It's pure. And they'll start using your calls, Matthew, in training sessions and as an example for others. And do me a favor, take the compliment. I know that you've risen before in other endeavors, but if this is something new for you and you rise fast like I did, because I didn't fall into traps, I was pure. I didn't make 100 calls a day, damn it. I made about 84. My talk time was an additional 2 to 4 minutes, but my conversion was sick. Yeah, I got the big chair. Then I got the nice double wide desk, right? This is back in, the early two. And then eventually I got the window seat. And the people around me might have been envious, but they also realized I earned that. And unless you can match my 44, then you need to slow down and calm down there, buddy, because this seat is done on merit. Well, maybe he did something on the call. Listen to all my 84 this day. Not only do I play a perfect hand, I stack. I'm an ace. I don't judge on QA because I want your 10% zig and zag. I want to hear the dog bark. I want to talk about Philadelphia. I want to find por lo menos at least one anchor on your call. Why? Why not? I need a special sauce on the call. I'll still do the job, but I will be putting in that note section. Say hi to the dog Fluffy. Remind Betty about the 20-year anniversary. Billy's grandson's birthday party. How did that go at Chuck E. Cheese? And you wonder why. That's all I did. And people loved working with me for that. The agents, because they felt satisfied and not pressed. They're paid, but the worst thing to do is commission an artist. They feel they're boxed in compared to free. Most of those paintings done on free will sell the highest, or the artist is the most satisfied, or they write that song in 5 minutes. And so the purity, it's interesting we're even talking about this stuff. You have to keep it pure so you can look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day, Matthew. And when you put your head on the pillow, lucid about your day with your intentions, just realize you did it in an honorable way. You'll have your home runs, you'll have some strikeouts, but it just depends on the play and how you feel that day. And I just don't like when people are hard on themselves. This is a very demanding job. It's taxing, isn't it? I mean, you're really sucking in a lot of energy from people and trying to solve stuff.
Indeed.
But don't tell me it doesn't build character, right? And patience
Yeah.
and empathy, right? Even though we're big and we're strong, you're the first guy to give you a hug and let you know it's going to be okay. And do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy assisting people on the phone?
I do. That's one of my passions, is just helping people. I'm a massage therapist as well, so I believe that's what my calling is here, is to help people. And a lot of my, past jobs has been assisting people and being a service to people. So I do enjoy it. It's always a different situation that I have to solve.
Yeah,
And I had a couple of calls where the caller was like, "You know what? I really appreciate you. You're the best customer service person I ever spoke to,
that's
and
right.
you deserve a raise." And it felt good because I noticed something that I'm doing is impacting somebody's life, and that's my whole purpose, is to be a positive impact, not a negative impact.
No, those are the sort of things, even though they are paying you probably would have done for free anyway if someone asked for your assistance. And it's so nice to have a job where you can pay it forward. And even, I wouldn't say in a little way, you might shatter some misconceptions or potentially, Matthew, renew the faith in some individuals that had just 9 terrible experiences, changing banks, losing accounts, to the whole shebang. And then they speak to someone like yourself, and it's almost like meeting a friend out there in the wilderness and in the dark, or when two ships pass in the night. And I love being on certain phone calls. Because if you understand the dance like a doctor does, or an architect, or someone that is a master of something, you can see it compared to a novice. And so when people come in with certain vocabulary, I give benefit of the doubt. If they use tone, have they ever cursed on the phone with you?
No, I haven't gotten that yet. Thank
Oh,
goodness.
well, wait, you got to break your cherry one day. Someone is going to F bomb you
Yeah.
like crazy. And
I had a couple that tried, they came close to it, but then they stopped, they paused. I could feel it coming out, but then it's like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
well, sometimes depends. If it's a direct attack at me, that's a red flag, a warning. One more time, you're done. But if it's a out loud, I can't believe this is happening.
Right.
They get a mulligan, they get a pass. I'd be like, yo,
Mhm.
buddy, relax for a minute. You're not on the warning track yet. And then what happens is within 30 seconds after readjusting the tone and calming down, they will interrupt you and go, Matthew, I just want to
Yeah.
apologize for yelling, cursing,
Mhm.
screaming earlier, and this and that. And you don't think now at a distance from a 10, you're like a 1, where you can slow walk, ask question, laugh at once or twice. You've literally cut a line in regards to rapport building because they did something. You fell on a sword in a classy way. You didn't say, well, you cursed and I didn't. No, you kept your mouth shut. You were cool about it. They knew. You said, man, it's already been 30. Here it is. Okay. If he goes a minute, where's his
Exactly.
manners? But it's got to be within a minute. But if it's in the
Right.
first 30 seconds, you can even do extra pausing. So, Matthew, come on, buddy, say you're sorry. I'm giving you the end. And if you want to have some fun and enjoy your calls, then I think these are beautiful hors d'oeuvres you can put on the table, little things to taste and to test. And all you're doing is bridging. You're anchoring. Well, Richard, how am I doing this? Doing it the natural way. That's why everyone loves you, dude. And your podcast is great. And all the emails that went back and forth between you and I wishing me happy holidays and good mornings and stuff. I mean, you're a really nice guy, like super
I
nice
appreciate it.
guy. And
I do my best.
well, that's how you were raised. And it's authentic, which I like it. And it's not just a canned email. This is our not handwriting. You type these things out. It's very nice of you. And that's the old school way. And I like things like that. And so, and I'm going to say it again. I'm not going to take you back from the pace of your work, but I think your bus could have a second level on it. You can double decker and bring more plates out, right? You can do what some of those really good waiters do. And I always believe by just doing name drops during transitional sentences and bringing people in and having trigger words. Yeah, trigger words. I like to pause before names and numbers for like the Price is Right emphasis. So you said you've been living there 25 years. I mean, come on. That's what we're used to. Yes or no. And you know
Yes.
perfectly what they're like. Yeah, you said 25 years. Um, I don't Bob Barker it, but I do know time and tested phonetics that we grew up with on the television, from the newscasters to the politicians to the rock stars and athletes. There is pausing. And the craziest thing about phonetics, which is the sound of speech, actually the pausing in between the sound is probably even stronger than the sound itself. It's the spacing. It's a beautiful dance. So you're giving people a chance to react or to speak. And in your case, I think it should be 2 in 1. Do your job, ask your questions, but then listen twice as much when you speak. And I promise you, your talk time might go from 8 to maybe 8:44, or maybe 9 minutes. You might add another 30 seconds to a minute. But I promise you this, there will be that one time they're going to ask for a clarification question. And then you wonder why you don't have the appointment, the signature, the close at the end. You rushed. There was a door open. You got to slice and dice and scuba dive, double check. He's still breathing. We're good. I'd rather have, does this make sense? Sounds good, right? It's only 3 seconds. If you want to say Matthew, 4 seconds with a quarter-second slide on a name drop and pausing in between. So you got a buffer. But I'll take that 10 times, which is 40 seconds. Those are insurance policies to make sure A, B, C, D, E, and F are check out. Makes sense. Makes sense. Sounds good. Sounds good. All good. Can we do it Thursday? Fine, Thursday. We had it Wednesday, Thursday. Thank God I asked. If not, then it wouldn't have happened. My man, stop yelling at me to make 100 calls.
Right.
Matthew needs to check his calendar for 30 seconds, please. Stop. Allow my friend to finish. And then you wonder why outbound calls go to productions and you don't even look at outbound anymore. Now the real players, you look at what they got that day. You don't even ask how many doors you knocked on. You don't do that anymore. You just look at the end result. In the
Right.
beginning, you see if people can pace so you can balance them. You can QA them and where they can maximize their skills. When someone is just a free flowing artist that just walks in shining, you have to put them in. It's almost like Francis Ford Coppola's movie, The Black Stallion. Do you remember that movie from back in the
Yeah.
day?
I
One of
sure
my
do.
favorites of all time. This thing was beautiful and fast and a winner. The only thing it needed to do was to have the training to do the track. My goodness gracious. And so I see such raw talent. And I can always teach someone to get on, as you know, that Plantronic headset and to log into the CRM and to do your thing and to be in ready status and put in your dispositions. I know. That's fine. That's the brush. But don't you dare put that sort of automation into your call. I'm willing to die as a romantic in regards to that sense. And my passion behind it is what gets me the majority of my clients because they want that passion. They want the kids that we're hiring to do what you, Matthew, and what I do is to feel happy of those compliments. And it's a dying breed. A lot of people prefer to text. But if you and I are willing to go super old school spats wearing 1920s sort of
Yeah.
speech, then I'm all game. And I'm willing to almost make it a certain sort of specific type of specialist market if I have to, because there will always be somebody out there, my friend, that will press zero that would like to speak to you and I.
100% agree.
So what else is cooking up there? Is the weather good?
It's been raining the last couple of days. Temperature's been fluctuating 30 degrees, I think 60 degrees the other day. So I'm in Georgia. So it's like back and forth. It's kind of bipolar right now. So we don't have the extreme, you know, 32 and below or the snow and rain consistently, but not bad. No complaints for me.
We have two seasons here. The temperatures in the 70s and 80s, but it's usually just summer and winter, which is really the rainy season. And it's so lush when you
So
leave the city and you go to the rainforest.
God love it. So
Where do you go?
you're currently in Costa Rica now.
Been here since August of 2000. Yeah, came down to work at my friend's center and just didn't leave. Decided to start my own business 16 years ago, married the girl of my dreams.
I loved it. I went in 2020, like
Hmm.
right after the pandemic. I went in August. I fell in love. I never experienced peace like that. I loved it so much. I came back within the next 2 months. So I plan on going back in June or July this year. And it is definitely a beautiful place. But that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask
Yes,
is because you mentioned in the bio as far as moving abroad and pitfalls that you can give people advice about as far as moving from the states to Costa Rica, not just Costa Rica but abroad just in general. So if you can speak on that a little bit, your experience and why people shouldn't be afraid of it, and what are the best uh, approaches or processes to take to make that move.
of course. I don't want to sound like a party pooper, but before I went to Europe, my junior year in college, my parents made sure I watched Midnight Express twice just to make sure I understand to have fun, but don't be stupid. And you're a guest in certain countries. My suggestion for longevity and to have the best time is to follow the rules so you don't get in trouble. You don't get beat up or robbed or just at the wrong place at the wrong time with definitely the wrong people. And am I a mark down here? what do you think? I mean, look at me. Not saying I'm special and say, look at me, but there are certain things that make you stand out. And so, a couple suggestions, and I'll do the yin and the yang, the good and the bad. If you are planning on moving abroad and they don't speak English in that country, you should learn that second language, just for, out of respect for enjoyment and also for defense. Depending on the company, I'll disclose if I do or do not know Spanish. Because if it's Shady B on the corner on 10th Avenue, I'm going to pretend like I don't speak Espanolo and I'm just a dumb gringo. And I'll see what these cats are saying and I'll size up and see what I need to do. But then again, there's other moments where you can really make a nice first impression and show people that you might be the first out of many that tried to learn this language. You need to keep an open mind, patience. There
Yeah,
will
for
be
sure.
long lines. Don't expect luxuries and the sort of speed and fluency on certain things, which is fine. And in the United States, there might be things that are slow that are fast here. So it's me today, you tomorrow. But don't you dare make a scene or try to pretend like you're more important than somebody else. You might know somebody, which is very fortunate, which can assist you with certain appointments, meetings, or saving you time. But for the most part, enjoy the experience of what it's like too. And keep an open mind. As you said, you came here, and I'm so glad you did, Matthew, and you found peace in mind, but you came here wanting that. You didn't bring the baggage with you. You wanted to shed some skin, and it's unfortunate that it wasn't a longer period of time, because after that honeymoon stage that it really sinks in
Right.
what you're doing when you've repeated it 50 times. But I got you. Like, you tasted it and you brought it back with you and it changed you a little bit for the better.
Indeed.
How do you think I felt? I was supposed to be here for 2 months. So I got past the 2 week, 1 week vacation thing. And I was falling in love with my current wife. And I was working at this call center with my friends and teaching English. And I couldn't believe it. I was 27 years old, 3,000 miles away from my folks, making enough money to thoroughly enjoy myself here. I was with a bunch of friends from college that were here. And I said to myself, yo, if you do not take this opportunity, you will regret this for all of your days. Yeah, but Richard, you got your parents back home. Yeah, I
Right.
understand that. But there's responsibilities. I got you. But yo, I know within my heart, and you know this, it had to be done. And does this mean I was going to devote 30 years of my life? I haven't even done 30 yet, so everyone calm down.
Right.
But I could have always gone home. I could have always bought a ticket any month, any week, or any year. But
Right.
for me, I live life on runs
Mm.
and a streak. Not talking batting 1,000, but it didn't stop. So why would I stop the falling in love, making enough money to start a business, surviving in business? Why would you stop that whirlwind? Why would you stop that momentum? It's gravity downhill. It's a fun ride on your bike. There's wind in the sails. What is wrong with me to not want to do that? And so I had to make some very, very large decisions about where I spend my time and with whom. And unfortunately for me, a lot of this decision was a self decision. Besides the wife that's here with me, I'm very far away from my family and friends. But life is made to be lived.
Yes,
And I
yes, it
left a
is.
castle to slay a dragon, my friend. I saved a princess, and I'm a prince.
Awesome. Like, so, Richard, if you may, we're live, and I apologize if I didn't mention that to you when you first came on. So there's actually viewers that call in, not call in, but they put in the chat as far as
Oh
questions.
yeah,
So I actually have a question for you. One of the
sweet.
viewers,
Who's it from?
KJ, and she's in Atlanta, Georgia,
Yes,
and her
KJ.
question is, how do you train employees to not reflect the negative energy they receive from customers on the phone?
That's quite simple. I make sure that whatever's happening outside of the office doesn't determine their work here. Because if you're a professional, someone in this industry might be frustrated or elevated. But if you're coming into the work about to snap, you know you're going to yell at this person. If it's the same sort of phone call you've been doing for 7 years, I know, but just today you snapped. And I can't have the Jerry Maguire. And so, secondly, we have rules. I mentioned earlier, KJ, if someone curses directly at you, that's really is a red flag and it's one more, you're gone. But if it's an out loud frustration thing, we've all stubbed a toe and cursed before. And so I give people the pass and I try to readjust tones with them. As it was a very nice question that you asked. And obviously, the first question you asked is in consideration of others. And so if you extend empathy, KJ, and you listen and you say names like I say yours, which is cool. I'd love to know what the K and the J stands for, but we'll do that on another episode. But yeah, Miss KJ, of course. And I like those sort of questions because that's the individual that is making the effort. That's the 55% compared to the 45% of this dance. Someone has to lead it, my friend. And I think that needs to be you. It might take a little longer, more readjustments of tones. That's all. 30 seconds a shot. We can carry those small bags. Those are smaller piles. We can fix those, my good friend, with an excellent question. Thank you, KJ.
All right, so I'm going to kind of jump back to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
So as far as the like I'm retired military, so if I was to decide to move, I don't know how that would work as far as with retired pay and disability. And was it a big change as far as income wise, moving from the States to Costa Rica?
It's a very
And
good question.
how did you adjust that?
I was in a very specific circumstances. My United States is inscribed, my company is inscribed in the United States.
Oh,
I'm paying US taxes and I do banking there, but I'm also have a bona fide residency. So I was tax exempt for well over $100,000. And it's very nice because you have certain business expenses and plus, living abroad, your first 100 grand is tax free. And that's a wonderful thing. And the cost of living here, depending on how you want to live, is about a third of the states. Think about it like this, my friend, unless you're at the beach, you really don't need air conditioning or heating
right.
here. The temperature is perfect. And someone like yourself that likes fresh fruits and vegetables and seafood, you were here. You can go to these farmers market and stock your fridge and have this beautiful outdoor eco lifestyle, which is like camp, like every day is a Saturday. And there's a 500,000 expats here. There's a lot of individuals and that have served. And it's kind of cool. I'll have people at the call center that were in the military. And those are my heroes. I mean, Semper Fi. And I love to learn their structure and discipline and leadership and their thought process because as much as I pretended with cowboys and Indians as a child, the real chivalry, the real knight in today's age, it's you and the other individuals that have served. My father and grandfather and uncle served. And so it's in my family too. And so how do you explain that to some people when they're here and I'm a boss and I give them a check when they have saved the United States and they've done things that I could only imagine and have never experienced and was never tested. So as much as I might have succeeded in business, I'm talking about people that passed the real tests in life about honor and bravery and commitment. And I believe my dearest friend, and thank you so much for your service. You know perfectly well. I'm so happy you came back alive and you
Thank you.
survived and were trained well. You know that takes you to other plateaus spiritually
Mhm.
because you were willing to do this sacrifice and you believed in something and you believe in God and you believe in your family and you every day thought about coming home and then your brothers. And so to only have those sort of deep emotions that are the most beautiful emotions that a human can have, that's Unfortunately, you were put in that circumstance, but that is real living and that changes people. And I believe for the better. I think that when people can prove something to themselves, I think they are incredible for the rest of their lives.
I agree. So you're based in San Jose?
Right. And the medical
Okay, okay.
tourism's here good too. I'm sorry, I get off on topics. But the
No,
medical
go ahead.
tourism's here is good. A lot of people come here for dentistry and hip
Okay.
replacements, plastic surgery, laser eye surgery. And everyone speaks English down here as well. And you have all certain comforts of home, like PF Chang's in the Outback, if that's what you're looking for. But you can slip into a nice lifestyle here. And it's close enough to the United States for direct flights, and we're on Mountain Time Zone. So that's not a problem. And as I mentioned, I had a very positive experience here. And there are some individuals that come down here with certain expectations, or they're not here for the right reasons. It's not the
Right.
right place at the right time. And then they might give themselves or the place a bad rap. And so,
Hmm.
but that happens everywhere and anywhere. But for me, when people ask my suggestions, it's really about certain places like Tabacone Resort, where the hot springs are in Lake Arenal, or you can go zip lining or go to certain beaches like Malpais and do some of the best surfing in the world. And so you'll have some of these once in a lifetime experiences that as a hero's journey, you can go back to Georgia, Philadelphia, or wherever else and tell all your buddies some amazing tall tales.
Hmm.
And they'll see a certain gleam in your eye and a poor Vita shirt, which is extra small for the podcast. Yeah. And you did push-ups before the podcast.
I did. I did elevate it. That's gonna pop the chest out. So.
I love it. That's great.
Okay, Richard, I have one more question by KJ. It just came up.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
she says, I have employees that I've had to give almost robotic responses they should give customers in order to prevent customer complaints. Is that normal?
KJ, they're hedging. That's when people do okays, wonderfuls, greats, which means that they're zoning out in a sense, kind of like an assembly line stamper. I give great examples about calls. It should be more of a painting than a print, which means it's more living in the now. But how do we do all this? Great question, KJ. I believe in name drops, trigger words, pausing before names and numbers. I mean, these are tie down questions if things make sense or sound good. Or how about this? What happens if a dog barks in the background? KJ, is your team prepared to stop for a minute and anchor with this client? Ask him the breed, what's your puppy's name, and things like that, just so you can. I know it readjusts the metrics, but as I said before, it's going to give employee morale. You're saying they sound robotic. Well, they're forced to be robotic. They have to ask 5, 10, 15, 20 questions and convert that call. The 19th question doesn't even exist. In my mind, the second question doesn't even exist. If I can't last 30 seconds against Tyson, how the hell am I going to go to the distance? And so, as I mentioned before, it's step by step and clawing your way up and moving forward. And you can go 6 miles, but if you break your leg on the second one, you're done. So, a lot of it is looking where you're walking so you can avoid little potholes and things. And so, and also, my friend, they might have lost the passion for the call. And so, what I think you might want to do is listen, self improvement is self analysis. Pull the call, have them listen to the call. And when you hear them interrupting, monotone, not paying attention, don't say anything. They'll look at you and just go, eh, hmm. Now, you know the face, do the shoulder shrug. Hey, that's what you did. That wasn't me. That's you that spilled the mustard. And so I think when they size themselves up to Matthew, myself, and KJ, and they realize that we're overextending and giving such ingratiation and really good customer support, they're going to realize they're not hitting it hard like in the gym. You can tell when someone's not stepping up and prepared, especially
Oh
on a
yeah.
team sport. And look at their numbers, my friend. Their conversion numbers are bad. And size, I bet you their talk time is longer because they're repeating questions and the people are frustrated, which means they're venting more, and that eats up time. While Matthew and I and yourself, KJ, thank you for bringing it to our attention. Understand your point. Allow me a moment to fix it for you. And these are the sort of soft skills. I have a certain technique. It's kind of funny. I brought it here today. It's called the buffer boomerang technique. Can you see that?
I can see.
Buffer boomerang technique. You're really buffering a negative tone. You're letting them know it's an excellent question. You're repeating the question back to them, and then you send the answer back in a positive way. I can't take you from a 10 to a 2, but I can chip away and shave. Listen, KJ, just get them to start getting some first downs. They don't need long run touchdowns. That's what the three of us do. But if someone has lost the spark, get them into the small wins first. You know, they got it in them. Use the thesaurus so they don't use help. Use assess God and lend a hand and assist them in their vocabulary to make their speech more diplomatic and more colorful. And you, my friend, you need to set the example as well, because you should always have an up-to-date phone call on your end, my friend, to let them know they're in your wheelhouse, and for them to listen to you on these escalated calls to show exactly how you land these planes and how to make a feather float. And so they will respect you. They will realize that you just took them to school 7 ways to Sunday. And then again, you look at them, they look at you, and then you give them some Philly, Georgia, wherever you are, guilt, and say, I know you're better than this. I saw your best day. And then they'll look at you and they'll say, you know what? You're the only coach, friend, or mentor that really called me out the straight way. Yeah, you're right. I am better than this. I go, then let's do this. And then you
Okay,
see what happens in the second half push.
Richard, if I may, she wants to clarify. She says they are trying to answer the phones and conduct other business because we are a medical office,
Oh, I'm
not a
so
call
sorry
center.
about that. I was going off on that tangent. Well, core, the breathing in between a phone call or answering somebody on site, I think they should take an extra 4 seconds just to take a breath. It'll take her for 10 to a 6 in regards to temperature. I think there could be some slight readjustments there so there's no side steps. You may ask for time. Matthew, may I have a moment, please? It might seem repetitive, but I think if you know your parameters and certain sort of speech like they've had in the military or other sort of structured environments, you understand when certain things are said, it's because that's just the structure. It's just how you say if something's 86th in the kitchen. And so I'm okay with that sort of speech, especially, and I judge character during chaos. I understand 3 phone calls, 2 people, and a person in the waiting room. That's the perfect time, KJ, for this individual to duck, duck, goose and go around that room little by littles, kind of like how Bruce Lee was able to do that Japanese dojo. And I think that is the individual that can have that synergy, because I think the people that are standing there realize she's got 3 phone calls and they're fighting for her attention. And then you have the emergency room guy that has the priority. So I think this is the most amazing time to not watch action, KJ, but reaction. And I think not in the moment, but afterwards, you can discuss the breakdown of the 7, what they did, how they did it, any spelling, grammar mistakes. Did you hang up on someone? They all know. It's okay. I think you could take it by case basis. If there's something that could be added in a training manual to show somebody what to do, because it might have been a first time for this individual. But my good friend, who cares about her people so? You should always give your team members the benefit of the doubt, because realize they're on the front line of this. You're talking about these people in the middle of this. And so don't give them a pass. But also, you got promoted, my friend, because you used to take those phone calls, if I'm not mistaken, KJ. So you know what it's like to walk in those shoes. So that's where in the corner you got to tell Rocky what to do. And sometimes I've seen individuals that do have nothing to do with that department help somebody go somewhere, take a piece of paper to another office, or jump on line 3 and ask them to hold on one more second, kind of thing. Why? Why not? And then you see future leaders there that are willing to assist in a certain way. So I always see certain, not negatives, but there's always an opportunity to see who has the balance. And I can do preventative measures, but that rare time, my friend, where they're juggling, it's nice to see. It's nice to see if we have our game tight. And I hope that answered your question. I just really extend empathy for those that answer phones and work with people. I know that it's a lot of energy sucking from time to time.
So much, very much. Okay, uh, Richard, I can sit here and talk to you for days. I really enjoyed it, and again, I thank you. But I want to stay in contact with you.
Sure.
Just if you can give me some feedback. I learned a lot, and I'm not just saying it to be saying. I've really learned a lot, and believe me, you have helped me a lot as far as what I can take with me when I go back to work on Tuesday. And you gave me a different perspective as far as how to approach it and just how to interact with the clients that's calling in. So I appreciate it. This was meant. It was supposed to go a different direction, but the direction it went was meant to go that direction. So as always, everything is perfectly aligned. And as I said, I will be in Costa Rica this summer, so I want to
Oh, yeah.
maintain contact so we can link up. Talk about old times in Philly and just enjoy Costa Rica.
No, I really enjoyed myself today. You bring the best out of me, and I can't thank KJ enough for her questions. And listen, my man, I want you to have a great weekend. And then Tuesday, go in there guns a blazing.
Yes, sir. Now you will be hearing from me. I'm serious, Richard.
Be more than happy to role play with you. Here's the
Okay.
skins. I love to pay it forward. There's no book or seminar here today. It's my friend Matthew and myself just sharing ideas and talking about life. And I was very fortunate. I took a 1 in a million shot at this. And I just want your audience to be bold and brave. You know the expression, fortune favors the brave.
Yeah.
And if you have a desire and you get these people that give you this reinforcement, you might need to take that chance. The worst thing ever is to live with regret. Be very responsible with your family and finances. But remember, 40 hours is part time, 80 hours is a full time gig. And if you can find the
I
time
agree.
to squeeze in there, like you and I did this weekend, because we have very good time management in between our parties and fun, we still found it important enough, interesting enough to be here today. And that's another lesson. It's a self-wrap to share with your audience. It just doesn't have to be during business hours. The people that really go above and beyond are the ones that find ways to meet in the middle. And I think that's how I'm going to wrap up this podcast with you and your amazing audience today.
Right. And KJ said yes, it did answer her question, and she thanks you very much.
Okay, Jada, it's my absolute pleasure. But what does the K and the J stand for? I got to know.
So KJ, if you're still there, Richard wants to know what the K and the J stand. I don't know if she's still watching. But
Eh, the
if she,
mystery. I have to
yeah,
wait for
if she does,
podcast
I'll
help
email it
to.
to you.
I always like when people do the nicknames and stuff. That sounds cool. But I'm glad you have a dedicated audience that participates. That's important
Yes,
too.
yes, yeah. She's here every week.
That's cool, man.
Right. All right, sir. So you enjoy the rest of your weekend and Pura Vida.
Cool Vita, my friend. You enjoy yourself as well. Look forward
All
to
right.
seeing you soon.
All right. Bye bye.
We still live?
I was trying to stop it.
Cool, they get an extra minute of me smiling.